Hello, welcome to Easy Plays MTG. I'm Ez, and we're going to be making some easy plays in Magic the Gathering. So I haven't posted for a little bit. That is partially because I was working on my Marvel Secret Lair Commander decks, trying to get those pieced together here. And so this deck, which is going to be my Captain America First Avenger, is going to be the first of three. I'm going to have these in their own separate playlist for Marvel builds, because if they go for more Marvel Magic cards in future, like with the announced Spider-Man set, we're just going to have that separate playlist. So that's the playlist this is going to fall under. But right here, we're starting off with Captain America. I'm also trying out doing this deck walkthrough on the Moxfield here. So I have my whole deck list in the lists down this way. Let me know if you prefer the deck tech being shown through here on Moxfield, or if you like seeing all the physical cards. This one for my Marvel, I have a lot more handwritten proxies as part of these decks as well, and so trying this out was going to be a little more readable for you all. That's part of it. Part of just trying to play around with things, see what you guys like as terms of viewing my deck builds. But yeah, so right here, Captain America First Avenger. On my Moxfield here, deck title here, I had to. Absolutely needed for a Marvel fan. End game playing on that a little too much for me to not go for the deck title. But my description builds some equipment for Captain America to throw at your opponents. Effects to reduce their copy ability for easy value while removing equipment. So in here, starting off obviously with Captain America. Can't enhance the image. I might learn some things as we're doing this. But Captain America First Avenger just costs red, white, and blue, needing the reorienting of the coloring because it had to be that way for Captain America. Legendary creature, human soldier hero for 4/4. The active ability, throw 3 unattached equipment from Captain America. He deals damage equal to that equipment's mana value divided as you choose them on 1, 2, or 3 targets. And then the second ability, catch, at the beginning of combat on your turn, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to Captain America. So I kind of went straight forward with this, where I have a bunch of equipment here, do a little bit of swinging, but I'd like to utilize the throw ability, having the ability on catch to auto equip my equipment to Captain America. Just helps with getting things onto him without necessarily needing to constantly pay equip costs. And so what I'm looking for with that here is to be able to really utilize the throw in a number of ways, which includes being, like I said in that description, copying it, or just reducing that payment so I have better ability to throw multiple equipments potentially in one turn cycle. This is going to be a far more high power casual build. Voltron-y style decks like this tend to just sit high power because they play very aggressively. But we'll just quick space through the lands that I have for my mana base. They are a number of my proxies for my physical cards. I have all the Surveil lands from Murder's Karlov Manor. I have a round of the fetch lands that are in my Jeskai colorings. I didn't expand on any other split types. I just have the Scalding Tarn, Arid Mesa, and Flooded Strand in here. I have the shock lands, and then I have a mixture of other 2-colored lands. In a Voltron deck, you can't miss out on a Rogue's Passage. That's too efficient on a land to turn away. So if you're needing to sneak through that last little bit of damage to finish, Rogue's Passage often gets that one done. And then my all colored lands here, obviously a command tower. I have an exotic orchard. I have the Mystic Monastery as well as the Ralgrin Triome. And then I have Plaza of Heroes as well as an Ancient Tomb. I've had some Ancient Tomb proxies out, and I've just been loving using Ancient Tomb on a lot of my decks because it's simultaneously a way to speed up my game in terms of both what I can do with my mana as well as dealing the damage to me, so it's showing my opponents that I value going through this game, not necessarily just playing the business out kind of thing. We're going to dig right out of my lands here into some of my miscellaneous slingings, I guess, that I have here. So I have Faithless Looting just kind of as a quick draw source. It is fairly certain the only one of these here, but I have Faithless Looting as that selection because it's just the one red, as well as having the flashback accessibility to be able to utilize my options with what I see and draw. Promise of Loyalty is the Voltron board wipe that I want. It is also the only board wipe I did put in here because I have found that with my casual games, I prefer to not to have too many board wipes in any of my decks, that I rather have the targeted removal when people are really popping off, rather than extending the game with a constant state of board wiping. But Promise of Loyalty, for 4 and a white, each player puts a vow counter on a creature they control and sacrifices the rest. Each of those creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control for as long as it has a vow counter on it. Promise of Loyalty basically says, you guys can keep a creature, it can't attack me, but when I'm focusing on my Voltron, my commander, I'm just going to keep my commander around and basically board wipe everybody else's creatures. Some of my other spells that I have in here: Trash for Treasure, good quick recovery for exchanging one artifact for another. That's part of the Faithless Looting here that I'm okay discarding some things on. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I believe everything else down there is some interaction, so we're going to get straight into my interaction here. Like I said, prefer some targeted things, so we'll get down to my instance down there in a minute. I do have Savine's Reclamation in here because a lot of my mana curve here actually sits fairly low, and so that has a lot of access for Savine's Reclamation to be efficient for me. Return target permanent card mana value 3 or less from grave to field, and if it's cast from graveyard, you get a second copy of it. So again, with the flashback, we really want to utilize that there. Requisition Raid. I have found Requisition Raid to be a really good sorcery speed removal piece, having the ability to either be a naturalize for that 2 mana, or even having the extra utility of 3 mana for hitting an artifact and enchantment. I'm not often going to be using the final mode for +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls. It's in here to be that interaction with artifacts and enchantments. The rest of my interaction here, an offer you can't refuse, Fierce Guardianship, and Negate are all in here to be assisting with non-creature spells that want to target Captain America. Want to keep that safe aside from equipment. We want to make sure that there's not going to be too much that gets to him. Chaos Warp for just versatile target removal. Can't get over on there with my casual Chaos Warp. We have Contraband Livestock for just spot removal on a creature. 2 mana instant, 2 mana being 1 and a white. Exile target creature, and then the creature that its controller makes is based on what a d20 roll turns out to be, which can be a 4/4 ox, a 2/2 boar, 2/2 boar, or an 0/1 goat. Also have a Deflecting Swat, similarly to help with the changing of targets protection kind of thing. Disdainful Stroke, I just love Disdainful Stroke. Phenomenal counter spell. Counter target spell with mana value 4 or greater, and that just hits so many of your power pieces that start at that 4 mana value segment, that everything from there and up, you can just straight up hit, whether it's a creature or non-creature, either way. The flawless maneuver in here, of course, has to be from the secret layer for Captain America. That's something that's just too good to be able to just free cast as protection for Cap or his other creatures that are going to be on the battlefield here. Smelt for straight artifact removal at instant speed. I actually really like Smelt as well. Instant 1 mana. Great use to be able to just hit an artifact that could potentially be a combo engine for other players. And this town ain't big enough. I very much love this town ain't big enough. 4 and a blue is the casting mana value. However, at instant speed, this spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a permanent you control. And then it's return up to 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. So the way I read this is if I need to bounce something in my opponent's, okay, maybe I have a little mana rock, maybe I have a creature that I'm protecting, that's why I'm casting this, and I get a nice bonus of, well, I'm going to bounce this thing of my opponent's. So I'm always looking at this as being a 2 mana spell, bounce something I want to protect, bounce one of my opponent's things I want to see off the field for just a little bit. Super, super versatile, super valuable. Last time I'd ordered these, I ordered, I think, 10 of them because I knew I was going to start slotting it into a lot of my decks. Wanted to make sure I had plenty. Going out of my interaction then, let's go and hit my creature base that is here. So my creatures, Akiri, Fearless Voyager, is in here to be a smaller card draw engine. The one thing that I have a lacking of in here is going to be a little bit of card draw, so a number of these creatures find me a way to draw cards. Akiri being one of them, as well as having the activated ability there. White, you may unattach an equipment from a creature you control. If you do, tap that creature, it gains indestructible until end of turn. Fun little note about that ability is it neither targets what equipment nor targets a creature, so it is just a flat activation, and your opponent might have any or no idea which creature of yours that is equipped that you're planning to protect. Obviously, for the most part, this is going to be, okay, this is out, and I'm trying to protect Captain America. Archaeomender, artifact recursion on a creature when it enters. That way I can potentially reuse something that my opponents have removed and put into my graveyard or milled, etc. Astor, Bearer of Blades, 2 red, white, 4/4 legendary human warrior. When Astor enters, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may reveal an equipment or vehicle. This is basically just going to be equipment from among them and put it in your hand, the rest on bottom in random order. So it's a engine that allows you to pick out an artifact, essentially, is how we're going to be treating that with a Voltron deck like this, and put it into your hand to play later. But it also has your equipment have equip 1. The vehicles also have crew 1. That's not as big a deal in this deck. So the equipment changing to equip 1 makes it easy to pay the equip costs in this deck, even with Captain America's free auto equip at start of combat. Same with Brass Squire, tap to attach target equipment to target creature. Danitha Capuchin, Paragon, cost reducer on my aura and equipment spells. Basically in this deck, it's just going to be equipment. I don't really utilize the auras here. But also being a 2/2 for Strike, Vigilance, Lifelink can be a good defensive body to help buff up as well with the equipment. Danitha Benalia's Hope for 4 and white legendary human knight also has the same keywords. Again, when it enters, put target equipment card from hand or graveyard on the battlefield attached to Danitha. So ideally, this recurs something out of my graveyard, back to field, buffs up Danitha for defense. Eartha Joe, Frontier Mentor. I'd seen some things about this card out of Outlaws of Thunder Junction. For 2 red and white, it's a 2/4 legendary core advisor. The enter trigger to create the mercenary, not a big deal. The bottom ability, whenever you activate an ability that targets a creature or player, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this is huge, that bottom ability, because it functions with Cap's throw. because you're always going to be choosing at least one target. I expect most of the time I'll only really have one target with throw. And no matter how many targets you have, Earth is going to see that, copy it, and you'll be able to redistribute an extra set of damage on that. We do have a couple more copy effects that we'll get to on my equipment. We have Forensic Gadgeteer from also Murders of Karlov Manor card. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, investigate, and then it reduces your activated abilities of artifacts, which can't reduce it to less than 1 mana. So a small cost reducer to sort of function with equip costs as well. This also works in conjunction with the clue tokens that it makes out of the investigation, where it's just pay 1, sacrifice the clue to draw, which is a much better rate for that card draw. And having a larger contingency of artifacts in this deck is going to be very good to have him in there. Joyous Familiar, historic spell cost reducer. Lauren, Disciple of History, 3 white, 3/3 legendary human artificer. When Lauren or another legendary creature enters, return target artifact card from your graveyard to hand. Very powerful card. Not quite as high play as Lauren, that acts as a Reclamation Sage. I can put that up on here once I know the name in post. But the ability of this to be an artifact recovery, as well as turn your other legendary creatures that you play while she's in play as artifact recovery, is pretty powerful. Padim, Consul of Innovation, 3 and a blue to give your artifacts hexproof, as well as a little bit of card draw if you happen to have the highest mana value artifact. Most of the time when I have played Padim, I do have the high mana value artifact. I really don't know if that's quite going to be the case with Captain America yet, since I do have a slightly lower curve on here. But we'll see. I did throw Pippin, Guard of the Citadel, in this deck. It's acting as a Mother of Runes type effect. Tap ability on there is another target creature you control gains protection from the card type of your choice. So that can be either an instant or creatures, just to help protect Cap a little bit. We have Pure Steel Paladin, because this is a Voltron deck. It gives me card draw, makes my equipments auto-equips, basically. So that's a must-have for this deck. We have SRAM, Senior Edificer, card draw on my equipment casts. We have Starnheim Courser, a cost reducer for artifacts, enchantments. Ty Joaquin, Perfect Shot. This I'd actually seen on the Command Zones podcast on this deck that made me realize, yeah, that's actually insane to be able to, let's say I'm taking off a 3 mana value equipment from Cap with his throw, and I'm going to ping 3 tokens. Ty Joaquin will see all of that exact damage being done and allow you to get some card draw. In addition to, of course, having the activated ability down here to enhance damage that Cap is sending out to creatures. Ty Joaquin does not yes, it does affect players. So Ty Joaquin can also impact player damage if you're throwing equipment damage at players with Cap's ability. Really like this for the card draw. Again, because we're sitting low on card draw, so we needed some effects to do that. Valley Flood Caller, being a flash enabler for your equipment, so you can throw them on your into play, pun intended, on your opponent's turns, and then be able to have them ready for the auto equip without necessarily giving your opponents a turn cycle to react. Prompted me to have this in here. Zerta, the Dawnwaker. I have this as my companion with my Osgir CEDH deck. It is in here purely on the cost reducer that impacts both Captain America's throw, as well as your equipment costs getting reduced by that as well. Just very valuable piece to have in here. I skipped over a couple of cards in here in my creature listings because they are the reconfigure equipment that I have in here. So I have Cloud Steel Kieran, which, as long as it's equipped has the Platinum Angel text. You can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game, as well as granting flying. So giving Captain America flying is a pretty good deal. Its reconfigure cost being 5 makes Cap's auto-equip ability very good for that, to skip around 5 mana being paid on an equip cost like that. The other one that I have, the Reality Chip. Look at the top card of your library anytime is nice, and as long as it's attached to a creature, you can play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. This is wonderful card advantage engine here. So again, this reconfigure cost being 2 and a blue is the easy way to get around that by having Cap auto-equip it. And then you have access to the top of your library all the time, which is wonderful. I do have a Reality Chip commander deck that is a mono blue clone deck. Check out my Moxfield profile to find that. I might also just link it in the description below since I'm mentioning it. Super fun thing to have as a card advantage engine. And of course, we have just a few enchantments here before we dig into the rest of the equipment here. We have Captain America's Aid as Sigarda's Aid here. And so it's a flash cast with your aura and equipment spells, and it auto-equips equipment when it enters, which is phenomenal. Forge Anew from Lord of the Rings as well. When it enters, returning an equipment from grave to field, it doesn't equip it right away. It does grant the ability to equip at instant speed on your turn, and the very first equip that you activate, which does not see Captain America's catch ability, I would note. So you can have Captain America's catch ability here at the beginning of combat, attach an equipment for free. But then if you have Forge Anew, you'll still be able to pay 0 even in combat. If you're setting yourself up for some combat tricks, you can still utilize it that way. And then I have Training Grounds as the last enchantment here, again, as an activated abilities of creatures I control as a cost reducer. And so that lessens the throw ability on Captain America. I do have a couple other, what were the other activated abilities over here? Might have mostly just been the Tywakeen then. Notably, the 2 reconfigure creatures, the Cloudsteel Kieran and the Reality Chip. That's activated ability of a creature, and so it would get reduced by Training Grounds at that point of activation, even though it is going to not be a creature once it's equipped. Fun little thing there as well. Out of my artifacts pile here, we do, of course, have Arcane Signet, and we do, of course, have Soul Ring in here. We'll just get those out of the way. But then all the rest of this fun equipment here, Basilisk Collar for Death Touch and Lifelink on Cap, meaning a 3 equip or 3 mana value equipment that you're unattaching with throw. Okay, let me just ping things down. Pretty nice and easy. Basilisk Collar, of course, also working out pretty well for Death Touch Trampling is very nice. Battle Mage's Bracers, equipment that grants haste, which is a nice little add-on. Mostly what I'm looking for on this is the ability of Battle Mage's Bracers to, by paying 1, copy the activated ability from Captain America, so that we're making extra use on that. Bitterthorn, this is Animus. This might work for the Germ, whatever. Again, I would like to get this onto Cap, take a swing, and then I can mana ramp a little bit, because that is something that is going to be lacking in this deck, is just the overall mana curve is low, so I don't need as much, but it would still be nice to be able to fend off for myself in the late game when we get to that far. Black Blade Reforged is a given equipment for this. Empowers up Captain America pretty well, even though it's a 2-cost equipment, so you're not going to be throwing it. Being able to either auto-equip it to Cap or just have it for the swinging is going to be very valuable. I have Dark Steel Plate, as well as the Mithril Coat for indestructibility equips. Embercleave, I, believe it or not, have opened a grand total of 1 collector pack from Foundations, and I opened a foil Embercleave out of the guest slots, and so I was like, awesome, I get to put that right into Cap. And so Captain America being a 6 mana equipment is pretty nice for the double strike trampling and being able to evade its 3 cost of equip with Cap's auto equip ability is going to be wonderful. Excalibur, of course, being the name card for Captain America to have, being a 12 mana value. That cost reduces itself based on your historic permanent mana value. The 10/10 and vigilance buff is not to be ignored by any means either. A fun little tech equipment I have in here. Fiend Lash. 1 in a red. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has reach. The equip cost being 2 in a red, of course, will mean a little bit less because we're hoping to auto-equip it. The triggered ability on Fiend Lash. Whenever equipped creature is dealt damage, it deals damage equal to its power to target player or planeswalker. So the fun thing to do here, Fiend Lash granting +2 power, and being able to unequip some other equipment, so Fiend Lash is still equipped to Captain America, is with throw, you'll deal 1 damage to Captain America and be able to deal damage equal to Cap's power to target player or planeswalker. And so that could be an upwards of, I don't know, if we reference back to Excalibur is being equipped, we're looking at a power of at least 16. So no, that's not commander damage, but 16 damage to anybody's face is about half their life total, and that's going to look pretty scary, especially since that's not the combat swing. Haunted Cloak, got some keywords on there, is a cheap equip, so I can pay that equip cost without needing to utilize Cap. Illusionist Bracers, similarly to the Bracers, Battle Mage's Bracers, whenever an activated ability of equipped creature is activated, copy ability, the equip cost being 3 is hopefully something we can get around by using Captain America. Leyline Axe is a new one from Foundations as well, which can start on the battlefield if it's in your opening hand, is also a +1/+1 double strike trampler like Embercleave is. The equip cost, of course, being 3 is something we can hope to get around. Lothlorien Blade, another kind of, I'm going to swing, I'm going to deal damage to one of these blockers with Captain America's power so I can get around there. This equip cost of 5 again, we're going to get around. Not going to need to pay that, we're just putting it on the field. Cap's going to say, all right, I'll take that, and we'll be able to swing in hard. Loxodon Warhammer, +3/+0, trample lifelink. And then for some protection pieces for targeting on the equipment, we have Mask of Avacyn. I do have Swiftfoot Boots, and then I also have Winged Boots for flying and Ward 4. The equip cost being 1 on Winged Boots makes it pretty easy to pay on its own without needing to waste Cap's ability on that. I do have Masterwork of Ingenuity. I should check to make sure this is not my Secret Lair version. No, it is not. That is still staying in another deck, and we'll showcase that here in the next few weeks. We have Maul of the Skyclaves as well for flying. The first strike is a nice bonus, the +2/+2, not to be ignored. The equip cost on this being significant, but it does auto-equip on its ETB, in addition to if I should unequip it to deal some damage with throw, Captain America can easily re-equip it on its. We have Mjolnir, fittingly again, out of the Assassin's Creed set. Being a 4 mana equipment is nice. It also automatically attaches to legendary creature you control, attaches to target Captain America. Has the attack trigger to tap those creatures down, put a stun counter on it even. The extra damage I don't know is going to be that much of a hitter, but the slight evasion that provides is very nice. Plate Armor is one of my favorite equipments to run in decks like this. The equip cost gets reduced by each other equipment you have, and that does in fact reduce it below 0. So even with effects like Zerta on the field, where it can't reduce to less than 1 mana, You'll apply the reductions by Zerta, okay, and then you'll reduce it by plate armor and be able to not pay anything if you only have 2 equipment in play. Plate armor is often just a free equip for a +3/+3 buff in Ward 1. Can't beat that rate. The Shield of War and Peace, of course, from the Captain America Secret Lair. I.e. Sword of War and Peace. The protection from red and white can matter a little bit, as some of my equipments are red and white, but all in all, that is not a huge deal. The amount of protection that grants is almost indefinitely more valuable. Our last 2 cards here, Sword of Vengeance, +2 power, as well as a bunch of keywords. Very nice. Auto-equip on a recasted Captain America, perhaps. That way you can swing that turn. And then Thrain Power Suit is another wonderful Voltron card that I have found a great liking for. 2 mana. Equip cost is 2, so that's a fair and reasonable price, or even just skipping around that with Cap's ability. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it and has Ward 2. In a Voltron deck where all of the equipment or aura is going to be on probably your commander, that's just reading as a let's add extra power for each of those equipment, as well as a small layer of protection with the Ward 2. And again, that's just a rate that you can't really turn down for decks like this. So yeah, this is my Captain America build here. This Moxfield link will be in the description for sure. So if you want to look at this, I do tend to keep these up to date rather than have separate listings by any means. And so if I've changed a few things since this video, that probably means I've been making small upgrades here and there. But yeah. Again, one of the things that I think keeps this down is my small amount of card draw here. But again, it's a Voltron. We want to get some equipment in, be able to hit hard really quick and early, and close out the game after that. So we just want to be utilizing the auto-equip on catch and just have a little bit of versatility on throw. Utilize it as much as we can, make extra versions of it essentially by copying. Be able to knock our opponents down with Captain America, First Avenger. Don't forget to like, please. Subscribe as well if this is something you're into. And don't forget to comment if you do prefer this showcase through the Moxfield here rather than my physical cards. And I'd be happy to make sure I keep up with the preferred method with you guys. And until the next time, we'll see you then.